Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Caelin and I will be your host today. Welcome to our second webinar in our series, Becoming the Leaders of Tomorrow. In this series, Shape Your Future will be bringing you powerful young leaders so you can hear from the top world changers and their experiences and journeys. You can find our website with the link in our comments to find out more information about Shape Your Future and for other details and notifications for our events. To hear about our latest updates and information, be sure to join our subscription list. Now I'm really excited to introduce everyone to our guest today, Caelin Sutch. Caelin is currently leading Bytes Robotics as its co-founder, creating intuitive, affordable, and powerful robotic systems to solve real-world problems. He is currently a board member of the autonomous race car community, which uses AWS deep racers and custom-made autonomous cars to teach students the basics of software-oriented robotics. In addition, Caelin was the CEO of JSuit Robotics, an underwater robotic company, and was a co-founder at Biosphere, a revolutionary marine monitoring ecosystem. He has successfully created his own freelance creative firm and is currently attending UC Berkeley as part of the MET program, majoring in electrical engineering, computer science, and business administration. Caelin, we're really excited to interview you today. Do you mind sharing more about you?
Hey everyone, it's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for the introduction. So yeah, my journey's a little unique in the tech world. I actually started out as a graphic designer and a photographer. So as you mentioned, I started my creative firm in freshman year of high school, and I've had the pleasure to work with a variety of clients in both the commercial and the commercial world. So just working on a variety of ways to tell people stories and get a company's message out there. So from there, I moved into the world of UI and UX development, which led me into a programming role on Jesuit Robotics, which is a globally ranked collegiate level underwater robotics team. And there I really kind of worked on project management and honing my leadership skills and working together in large teams of programmers, and eventually ascended to a leadership position as CEO my junior year of high school. And my junior year of high school, you also mentioned I'm currently the board member of a nonprofit, ARCC, the Autonomous Race Car Community. So I founded that junior year with a couple friends, and we've led several workshops and events focused on democratizing access to artificial intelligence. So really trying to get into low-income areas and giving them kind of some really crucial education that can help them in their future. Then I really worked on a business development role. So that's kind of where I got my background in like pitching, working with partners, especially in the corporate world, like Intel and SMUD, doing demonstrations, business development, sales, all that kind of fun stuff. And then, senior year when COVID hit, I was suddenly kind of out of school. I had a lot of more free time on my hands. So I founded Bytes Robotics with a couple friends. And we've been working on that project for about 9 months now. And next semester, which will be January of 2021, we're taking it to a variety of VCs and incubators to get some seed funding to propel that project to the workplace. So yeah, it's a little bit about me.
Awesome. It's an amazing journey so far, everything you've done in high school. Do you mind just starting off by maybe telling us like a bit more of Bytes Robotics and how you came up with the idea and executed on it?
Yeah, so I think Bytes really evolves around my belief that robotics is something that should be accessible to everyone. And the fact that we're living in the year 2020 and there's really not a lot of robots everywhere is kind of disappointing. So really like the three founders, we all believe that there should be something that should be everywhere, augmenting humans, taking the place of humans in dangerous or monotonous situations, and really making all of our lives better. So our first product it's a low-cost autonomous robot platform. So it's something that a company can take and configure for like a variety of use cases, from like food delivery, helping out in warehouses, transporting materials or people around office buildings. So it's a platform that's really easily configurable, and something that hopefully makes robotics something that can be integrated into a lot more places in our society.
No, that's incredible. It's like a really cool idea. Like you said, 2020 and still like we don't see robots everywhere. Hopefully like companies like that will help. How were you able to kind of like execute on that idea? Like, that you wanted to make it accessible to different companies and even different people to use. How did you make that possible, at least your progress so far?
Yeah, so I think my background in design and and the other co-founders' extensive skills really helped in that. So like there's a concept in design called human-centric design. So it's creating things and designing things in a way that's focused around the end user who's a human. So when we were creating the robot, we really focused in on this aspect. So there's a couple things in the robot that make it, really human-centric. One of them is going to be the mobile app. So it's incredibly easy to control on your phone. So you can really perform, like autonomy and having a robot move from point to point on its own. It's something that's still pretty new and it's still in the research phase in a lot of places. But we're able to take that and put that into a mobile app, which is really powerful. And the other thing is the robot itself. I'm not a mechanical engineer personally, but I know that a lot of the design focus with the robot was making something that can work in human spaces. So human-robot interaction, which is kind of how like a robot acts and behaves around humans, is a research field that's growing a lot right now. So we focused a lot on that, so making like a really friendly face, having the robot move in ways and move and interact with people in ways that seems human-centric. And just all these things together just make a product that can really fit in like a workplace or a place with a lot of people in it.
No, that's really cool. I don't think I've ever heard of like any high schooler trying to make something like that possible. That's really cool how you guys are being able to do that. So I kind of wanted to talk more about the ARCC, like the Autonomous Race Car community. It's really an amazing organization and opportunity that you were able to provide to these different young students. Do you mind like maybe sharing how you were able to start this and expand it?
Yeah, so it initially started as a project at our school. It was just kind of like a club, and we kind of just together. We were all enthusiasts of, of like artificial intelligence mainly, and in autonomous like racing and autonomous cars is kind of a hot topic right now. And there's this product called the AWS Deep Racer. It's this little like 1/18 scale autonomous car. And we kind of started playing around with that a little bit, and it's a really, really easy way to put your skills to the test and create a autonomous algorithm that can actually race other people on a track. So like, just going through that experience was really incredible. And some of my friends were like, okay, this is something that we enjoy a lot. Now what can we do to make this experience accessible to more people? So we took that product and we started doing workshops with it. So going into like low income areas, holding presentations on like how these algorithms are actually working in the back end, and really simplifying the process of artificial intelligence to make it seem accessible. And accessibility, especially in a lot of regions where schools are underfunded and there's not a lot of room for STEM programs. So having something that you can have like this, like autonomous racing, like it can actually all be done in simulation. So you don't even need an actual car or a track. You can just do it all online, through like a website. And that's like really powerful. And that's kind of, it's another way, and, technology makes things more accessible. So, just based off that idea and that AWS Deep Racer platform, we just kind of kept working with that, kept going to more schools and more people. And then we were working on partnerships with like SMUD, which is a large local company in Sacramento, and a couple other companies to kind of just have them sponsor us and, get more reach, get more funding, and keep growing.
No, that's great. I like how you said like you started off with like a passion that you and your friends had. You really kind of enjoyed robotics and you tried to share that going to different schools and teaching it, then like reaching out to different companies and everything. It's really cool how you're able to make that all happen.
Yeah.
So you do have like a really strong passion for technology, engineering, and business. But for some students who don't really know what they like want to study in college or pursue in the future, what is your advice to them? Like how should they find their passion?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think like my experience is pretty unique and I've kind of known what I want to do for a while now. But for a lot of people, that's not necessarily the case. And I think in high school, focusing on broadening your horizons as much as possible. I used to do, I I overloaded myself quite a lot, kind of my first couple years of high school, just doing sports and a ton of different clubs. And you can just kind of have to take a taste of everything, and eventually you'll find something and be like, hey, this is something that's really interesting to me. And then you just put yourself all inside of that for like a semester or a year. And if it's still interesting to you, that's probably what it is. And you just have to keep going through that process, I think. And in college, even here in college, like a lot of people are still going through that process of figuring out what exactly they're passionate about. and what's something that they want to really be doing for the rest of their life. So, in college, you can do something like an undeclared major, and it's pretty easy to switch majors in college. So, these are all things in ways like you're definitely not going to be able to figure it out instantly. It's definitely a really iterative process, and you just have to keep putting work into it, and eventually you'll figure it out.
Yeah, like you said, I think the main like your key points, like it's you kind of have to keep trying. Like you might not necessarily find your passion on like the first try, and you have to also like give it time to see if you're like continuing to have interest for particular things. So you kind of like mentioned in high school how you had done a lot, overloaded yourself, and you still are doing so much, being part of all the organizations and running all your companies. How are you able to manage your time and set your priorities?
Yeah, speaking of setting priorities, yeah, I mean, today I still struggle with that. Literally today, I was realizing how much stuff I have on my schedule and just trying to manage it. But I think like everything that I do, I really enjoy doing. So most of it isn't like work for me, which is really nice. I know in high school, a lot of my classes I took was stuff that I was not interested in. So there's just a lot of pain there. But in terms of actually managing your tasks and initiatives, it's really worth it to start looking into processes and investing in like software that helps you do that. So I use an application called Todoist, which is a really great way to just keep track of literally everything I have to do. I used to do like time blocking. So write out every single hour of the day, figure out, okay, these hours I'm going to be doing this. And just, I think structure is really the key. Humans really thrive when you can kind of break down these really large, complex tasks. Like, for example, like, setting up a workshop for 50 kids. That's a huge task. And you just have to break it down as much as you can into really bite-sized chunks. And this is a process that I've honed over literally my whole lifetime. Um, and I think there's also a lot of books too that talk about this. Atomic Habits is one of them I can think off the top of my head. This just talks about this process of like, how can you do more in one day? How can you squeeze a maximum efficiency out of yourself, and just accomplish a ton of things.
No, I think those some really good points. Like, what was the software that you mentioned that you use?
It's called Todoist.
To-do list, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe like worth checking that out if you're having trouble struggling, or even like Caelin said, creating like an hour by hour list of what you want to do. Checking out some books, those are really helpful because I know a lot of high schoolers right now are kind of like burning out trying to do. Oh, there we go. Trying to do so much. Especially now during quarantine, people are finding more time, but filling up that free time with more things to do. So it's definitely really helpful. So you started your first year at the MET program at Berkeley. So I wanted to kind of ask you, as some other high schoolers are kind of going through the application process, but now since it's all virtual, they're not really sure of like what they can do and how to find out more about different programs. So I wanted to know why you decided to join the MET program at Berkeley.
Yeah, so the MET program, it's called Management Entrepreneurial Technology. I believe that's the acronym. It's really a program that's designed for people who want to break into the intersection of technology and business. So the program itself, it's very small. There's only like 50 people in my class. It was established like 4 years ago. So the first graduating class is graduating this year. And there's a lot of focus on it, on building like leadership skills, thinking between disciplines, so not just really restricting yourself to one method of thinking, and setting you up for kind of a future. A lot of people go into like technology consulting, go into startups, go into like financial banking. I mean, there's just tons of paths available. And I think for me, like when I was looking around at all the college programs, there's a similar program on the East Coast at UPenn called M&T. So M&T and MET, we're kind of the two. We're kind of the two different programs that I was really interested in, and I was lucky enough to get into the MET program. So yeah, that's where I am today.
Awesome. No, that's really cool how they're like even able to incorporate like the business aspect and then kind of like the technological aspects of like different majors. So I know that Berkeley is a really challenging school to get into, and especially the MET program. So do you mind sharing a bit about what you did, like maybe what you wrote on your application or some things that you did in high school that you feel helped you get into the MET program?
Yeah. Well, I think the main thing really is colleges want to know what you are passionate about, and writing your essays around like a kind of a central theme that all ties back to kind of some core values that you hold, I think is really important. And writing those essays too is also really important. Just creating them in a way like the people who are reading your application don't know you. They don't know who you are. They don't know the experiences that you've had, and you have the words that you have to really kind of just put that all together and try to sum up your life experiences, and show these people and show the application board that you're someone who's going to take full advantage of the school and go on to do great things. In terms of like activities in high school, I tend to shy away from giving anyone specific advice on what to do or what not to do, because I feel like kind of games the system. I think like if you can find something that you like doing, it's going to show through on your application. And really colleges like that's what they're looking for.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I think I'll ask you a couple more questions before we open it up to our audience. So I did kind of want to touch on the firm you had started. It's really cool how you were kind of saying like at the beginning that you had like the passion kind of for photography and like that creative side. And now you're able to kind of open up your own firm. So do you mind sharing about how that experience was? And how do you reach your customers and market yourself being a freelancer?
Yeah, I think sales, sales and marketing yourself is really hard. First, I'll tackle kind of that first question. So, like creating something like a creative firm, it's something it's pretty free for all. You don't necessarily need a really strict structure. It's just kind of like it's something I really enjoy doing, and I found out, hey, I could probably make some money from this. So doing stuff like cold calling and literally just contacting as many people on LinkedIn as possible and marketing yourself to them, finding local businesses and trying to see if you can do anything to fit their needs. And a lot of these like sales tactics are great ways to acquire customers and great ways to build your portfolio. And I think really the key is, and I haven't really gone in here yet, it's becoming like, well known enough within a specific community or specific industry in which people will be talking about you. And you want to really like every client you have, you want to value them because they're going to refer you and they know other business owners and other people who, need that same kind of work. So establishing good relationships and, networking is really, really important.
No, I think that's great advice. Kind of even talking about how you're able to start it. Like you said, I think it's pretty open and there's no like strict rules of how you should do anything when you are a freelancer. Just cold calling and like you said, making sure you have that good connection, good
Yeah.
relation, like with your clients. Okay, I'm just gonna ask you one more question before we open it up to our audience. So, what is one piece of advice you would give to student entrepreneurs who want to start their own organization or business? Like, what is the one thing you think they should watch out for or know?
I think the primary thing is it's going to require so much work. I think just working on Bytes Robotics, especially in the last like 9 months, I've never worked harder or more in my life. And it's going to require a lot of sacrifice. You're going to be missing out on things. You won't be able to go to as many fun activities with your friends. And there's going to be days in which like your focus is going to waver and you're going to be like, why am I doing this? What's the point of me putting all this time in this project that's probably doomed to fail? And you can't let those negative thoughts really get to you, because the thing is like you just have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing at it, and just have faith in the fact that eventually you're gonna have a breakthrough, and the more work you put in, the more you'll get out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think, like you said, like even though it does take a lot of time and you're not able to go to everything, but you still have to kind of ignore those negative thoughts and know that, like, in the end, it's going to be worth it. Okay. So our first question from our audience is, were there any times you felt stressed through your journey and wanted to give up?
Yeah. So I've had quite a lot of those. I mentioned like freshman and sophomore year, I really overloaded myself. And I wasn't focused. So I was trying to do too many things at once. I was doing like sports and a bunch of clubs, and trying to balance homework. And, I think like keeping track of your mental health is really important. And that's something that I was not doing at that time. So like for me, like that experience, like just going through that work overload, it made me realize like you can't do everything. There's a lot of stuff I would love to be doing. I used to do a lot of drone racing, and I wish I could still be doing that. I love playing like board games. But the fact of the matter is there's just not enough time of the day. And you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot of things that you care about in order to just keep on going and to keep on doing like good things. So just like keeping that in mind, and really just kind of narrowing your focus and what you really want to succeed in. I think is important to keeping your mental health sane, and not overworking yourself and getting too stressed out.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. Our next question is, how do you recommend starting a nonprofit, and where would be a good place to start?
Okay, so legal wise, it's a process. Our firm actually filed ourselves, so we didn't go through like legal Zoom or anything. It's totally doable. You just have to like go through online guides. There's a bunch of these different forms you have to fill out and send to the state. So I mean, that part of it is just you're gonna have to set aside like a weekend or 2 weekends to just get through all that paperwork. In terms of actually like executing a nonprofit idea, the main thing is people. So I was lucky enough to be part of a great friend group and great group of people who are also passionate about what we were working on, and people who would keep putting the time in and the work, and even when it didn't feel like it was fun. Yeah, so two things, I guess: investing in people and setting aside time to file paperwork.
Yeah, I think like you said, like a lot of people don't realize that there is a lot of paperwork kind of associated with it, but you can always like look online or like use LegalZoom for any of that stuff. And then like being able to kind of spread the work so it's not just a big workload on yourself, and having people is also like important,
Yep.
like Caelin mentioned.
Mhm.
So our next question is, can you explain more about Todoist.com? Just kind of explaining like how you can use it.
Yeah, so that was it was I was talking earlier about how I manage my tasks. It's like this. It's just a task management software. It's like a little to-do list, and you just write things and you check them off. Pretty simple, yeah.
I hope that answers your question. I mean, you can, whoever is interested, you can check it out online and try it out, see if it works for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next question is, did your parents encourage you, I think like kind of throughout high school and probably even earlier? And if so, like what did they do to encourage you?
Yeah, that's a funny question because that was asked by my mom. So I feel like there's a trick answer in here somewhere. I think in terms of like encouragement, my parents were pretty hands off. Like as long as I got good grades and kept being a good kid, they were fine with whatever I was doing. Um, like that being said, though, like I grew up in an environment where there are a lot of successful people around me. So just rubbing off on that success, I just thought it was the normal thing to want to do the same thing. I know a lot of people don't have that environment, and I was very blessed and lucky to have it. So, I mean, I think having like parental encouragement, whether you have it or you don't have it, I think really a lot of the motivation comes from within. Because even if your parents are pushing you to do as much as possible, you probably aren't going to be really passionate about what you're doing. And finding the motivation and drive within yourself is an important thing to do.
No, definitely. I think you nailed that perfectly. Um, okay, well, our next question is, what is your favorite project that you have worked on so far? And maybe you can tell us why.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I think right now at Berkeley, I'm working on this project called Metrobot. It's a human-robot interaction research platform. So, we're writing a couple papers and doing a lot of research in this area. And I think for me, it's just something. It's really cool to be around people who, like looking at robots and like looking at like the psychology of robot interaction. And it's also a really new field too. So there's a lot of opportunities for research. So it's a really cool experience to be part of kind of this new discipline that's coming up.
No, that's definitely really cool. So I think we have time for a few more questions still. Who do you look up to as your role model?
Oh boy. I think it's kind of hard to look at one person because, everyone has their flaws. But I think like Steve Jobs was someone who's really influential in how I think about things. If you haven't read his autobiography, I would highly recommend you doing so. And the standout things for me was really like his cross-discipline thinking. And I think it's really important not to get too in the mindset of like finding a single track for yourself. Steve Jobs' path was like all over the place. He wasn't something he was restricted by like what society expected of him, which was, to go to college, get a good job, etc. He's someone who really kind of just looked within himself and did what he wanted to do. And I think like if you can really channel that spirit of like ignoring the beckons of society to to go on and make money in like a big tech job, and you really just focus on what you want to do, I think there's a that's how you get to success.
No, that's really cool. Our next question is, so someone asked what college you went to, if we went over it. So yeah, feel free to answer.
UC Berkeley. I'm in the MET program. So.
Yep. And then question is, was there a point in your life where you felt like giving up?
Yeah, so I talked about this a little bit already. Sophomore year for me was a really difficult time for my mental health. And that was like probably one of the hardest experiences that I've been through. And, I talked about mental health already before, but, I think like right now there's this whole culture, like this hustle culture mentality where you should always be on and always be working. And quite frankly, I think that's a load of BS. You need to take time for yourself, and you're only human and you aren't a robot. And you're going to need breaks, and you're going to just feel sad some days, and you're going to feel like you don't want to do anything some days. And just acknowledging the fact that you are human, and giving yourself that space to fail sometimes and just not do anything sometimes. And, if you want to watch and binge like a Netflix season in 2 days, do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I think that one's similar. So how were you able to pick your majors? I know you kind of already talked a bit about how you had the passion since earlier, but
Yeah, I think picking my majors for me, so electrical engineering, computer science, I'm just really into CS stuff in general, or that's kind of my background. I'm realizing since I came here, the type of CS I'm interested in is very different than the type of CS that's taught in school. And then like the business aspect of it, business is a field that's always interested me, and leadership. And I think like, I kind of talked about this before with the MET program, and, combining the intersection of like a technology field and a business field. Because like, I really think like every like this famous person that of in the business world, like they come from an environment like that where they have experience with both sides.
no, yeah, I totally agree. Like even like going forward as like kind of progressing a lot more, you can see a lot more what is it called? You can see a lot more kind of crossovers from business and technology. So like doing both majors is really helpful.
Yeah.
Our next question, can you change your majors but stay in the same college?
Yeah. So at Berkeley, it depends on what college you're in. So there's a couple colleges here. I'm in the College of Engineering as well as the College of Letters and Sciences, since I'm doing both business and engineering, and Haas as well, which is a business school. So if you're in the College of Engineering, you can transfer. So for example, if I wanted to pursue mechanical engineering for some reason, I could switch my major pretty easily. Or like there's a major called Industrial Engineering Operations Research. I can do that as well. It's a little bit harder to transfer between colleges. So like you can't go from the Letters and Sciences up to the College of Engineering, but I could go back down if I wanted to study like philosophy or something.
Awesome. I hope that answers your question. I think it's about 5 p.m. I don't know, Caelin, do you want to take the last question or?
Yeah, it's fine. I'll take the last question. So where do you see yourself in 25 years? That's a good question. There's kind of two ways that I feel like this turns out. One of them is hopefully I'm leading a great company and creating great products that help people. The second way is I've, just gone through a bunch of floppy businesses and nothing's taken off, and I'm still grinding at the wheel, and still putting my mind to it, and just continue to work until I get something that's successful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Caelin. All your experiences and advice and information was super helpful, and I'm sure our audience also really enjoyed listening.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was really a pleasure talking to you and talking to everyone about my experiences.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. This is the end of the webinar. We still have one more speaker in this series, Jintali, who will be interviewing next week at 4:30 again. So if you're interested, make sure to register for that with the link in the chat. Other than that, thank you so much, Caelin, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Bye.